Hello YouTube, and welcome to episode number 2 of how to deadlift over £700. So this episode is called Before You Deadlift, Hints, Tips and Info. So yeah, going to go over various topics really, things to think about before you even deadlift. For example, setting goals, warm-ups, weight jumps, recovery, diet and equipment that you can use for when you deadlift, for example, what straps to use, belt, etc. So yeah, going to try and touch on a few things and hopefully that will help you in improving your deadlift. Okay, so the first thing to talk about before you even deadlift, before you even think about deadlifting, and it's often overlooked, commitment, very important. You've got to decide that it really is what you want to do to improve your deadlift and nothing else. Some things may have to take a back seat, whether it be weight loss, muscle building, squat, bench or whatever. If you really are serious about improving your deadlift, then that's what you need to focus on. So you need to ask yourself, can I actually commit to this? Is this what I really want? And are you going to be able to commit to the training that's going to be required? Because it depends on what work you do. Maybe you do long hours, maybe you do long shifts, maybe you run a business or whatever. I mean, you take me for example, I'm not married and I don't have kids and I do shift work, so I can work around my shift. So for me, I'm quite in a lucky position where I can focus on my training because I don't have to worry about the stuff that maybe a lot of you guys have to worry about. So I've got that luxury where I've got the time to train and I can plan it out quite linearly, where some people can't and can only get to the gym when they can get to the gym. I'll say maybe you've got a wife and kids to think about, maybe you've got a newborn that keeps you up all night, maybe it's difficult to sleep, so that's going to impact your training, so that's something to think about. Maybe stress and all that, maybe you've got a stressful work environment, maybe stress at home, so and stress can really detract from training. So that's things that you need to think about before you even start. And then of course you need to commit to a program, because at the end of the day the best program is the one that you're going to do. Okay, because I can give you a program, but if you're not invested in it, if you're not committed to it, then it's probably not going to do you much good. Whereas if you have a program and you really believe in it and you really believe that it'll work for you and all that, and you enjoy doing it, then you're going to make so much more progress, you're going to make so much more gains, because you're doing something that you really believe in and you're just going to work harder for it. So it's you've got to believe in your program and enjoy your program, because if you look at the program and you're like, oh, I don't like the look of that, oh, I don't want to do this, if it's a chore, then you're just not going to do it, or you're just going to half-arse it and you're just not going to work as hard and you're just going to go through the motions, and these are things that are just going to set you back. So another thing as well is motivation. Are you motivated? Like I say, do you really want it? Because you've got to, when I deadlifted the £700, it was all I could think about. It was how much sleep I was getting, food, all my training, everything was focused on just that goal, and the rest of life just fell away. So it really is a big thing to think about. You don't just deadlift £700 by accident. So are you motivated? I mean, with me, I've been training for so long, I don't need to be motivated. I've been going to gyms for so many years now that I can just switch on and just do it automatically. I think, right, it's Thursday, time to train, or Sunday's training day, and I just go down there and I just do it automatically without thinking about it. I don't have any training partners, but if you have a training partner, are they going to be motivate you or push you and give you the help that you need? Because I actually know some guys that will only train if their training partners are with them. So are you going to be able to, if your training partner is ill, are you still going to be willing to go down there and get through? So with a program, are you going to see it through? You've got to ask yourself that question. And lastly, you've got to really commit to it and decide it's what you want to do, because a lot of times, especially in the early years of my training, one of the things I was guilty of was program hopping. You know, in my early years, I would do a lot of reading. I mean, I still read now, but I would read lots of like books and stuff on the web and all that. And I'd be doing a training program, and I'd be like halfway through it, and then all of a sudden I'd read about this new program, and I'd think, oh, I like the look of that. That sounds good. So I would stop right in the middle of what I was doing, and then start a new program, and that is. One of the worst things you can do. Your best thing really is, if you're doing a training program, just to see it through. Unless it's blatantly obvious that you're not getting anything from the program, or it's not going to give you anything, it's best to just see it through, and then you've got some data to work with. And you look back and you go, you know, did that program help me? Did I get anywhere? Rather than just stop in the middle of everything and then start a new program, because that's one of the big mistakes that I made in my younger years. You know, you don't want to be swayed by a lot of what you read and all that. You know, you need to just knuckle down and focus on what you're doing. Because I say it was a big mistake that I used to make and all that. I'd easily get swayed by the latest program and I want to try that. I mean, you see so many programs on the internet. There's like, you know, increase your deadlift in 8 weeks, or, you know, blow up your bench in 10 weeks or whatever. So, you know, you need to just focus on what you're doing. If you want to try them programs, that's fine, but at least finish what you're doing first. So a lot of the mistakes I made as well was changing my goals. If you really want a big deadlift, then you need to make that your goal and that your only goal. So in the early years and all that, I wanted to get strong, but then I would sometimes change my goals and thought, okay, well, I want to lose a bit of weight, or I would want to get fit or whatever. A classic example, about 17 years ago, I was going to the gym. This was about 2007, and I had a big bench press. I was pressing over £300, about 330, something like that. And my deadlift was in the high 400s, and I was gaining strength. I was doing really well, but I was 21 stone at the time, and I decided I wanted to lose weight. So I stopped training and I started cycling 13 miles nearly every day, and I dropped a lot of weight, and I went all the way down to 16 stone. So I accomplished that goal. I lost the weight, but when I went back to the gym again, you know, my strength was piss poor compared to where it had been. You know, I lost about 30 pounds on my bench. My deadlift went down enormously. What I should have done is carried on training as well, but like I say, I just changed my goals, and my strength just went down as a result. You know, there's been other times and all where I wanted to get strong, but I decided, I want to get fitter as well. I remember a few years ago I bought Matt Fury's book on combat conditioning, so I would start doing the exercises in that book for conditioning and fitness and all that, and I was neglecting strength, and I wasn't focusing on the original goal that I wanted, which was strength. So yeah, you know, don't change your goals. If a big deadlift is what you want, then stick with it until you reach the goal weight in deadlift that you want. Okay, because you know, you've got to really focus on the goal of improving your deadlift and nothing else. Okay, that, like I say, with the £700 deadlift, that's all I was focused on and nothing else. So just focus on the goal that you've got. Let's say, for example, you're deadlifting in the 400s and your goal is a £500 deadlift, then you need to focus on that goal. Forget about weight loss, forget about anything else. Just put all your efforts into deadlifting £500, focus on that goal, and just leave every other idea alone. That's probably one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, and it's something, like I say, that I made the mistake of doing in my early years of training, was just, you know, trying to chase two rabbits and catching none, basically. I was just trying to do this, I was just trying to do too many things at once, and it didn't end well for me. Okay, so, you know, another thing as well, once you've committed, persevere with it, because progress is slow on the deadlift. You know, to improve your deadlift, it takes years, not just to build the strength, but to master your positions and all. A lot of people think that it's just a brute strength exercise, but there is a lot of technique that goes into it as well. And over the years, I've changed my technique as well. And the next video will go more into technique, but for now, just know that, you know, the deadlift, it, like I say, it does take time to improve it. So, there are going to be times where you feel like you're not making progress, or you feel like you're going backwards, but you know, so long as you stick with it and persevere, you will over time get bad. Like I say, if you look at my previous video, background and history of my deadlift progress, you'll see that it wasn't all linear for me. You know, there were peaks and troughs. There were times where my strength went down, then I got better, then I got worse, then I got better. So you know, don't, if you're having a bad session or whatever, just think it will get, as long as you stick with it, you will get better. Okay, so some of you may have seen the film Glengarry Glen Ross, and you may be familiar with the famous Alec Baldwin scene where he gives a speech about sales, and this is basically it. AIDA, attention, interest, decision and action, and this can also be carried over to the deadlift as well. Attention, do I have your attention? Interest, are you interested in building a big deadlift? Decision, have you made a decision to commit to building a big deadlift? Action, are you now going to take the action to build a big deadlift? Okay, niggles and injuries. Now, for some of you, this probably won't apply. You know, if you're new to training and all that, you're probably not going to have any problems, so you're probably going to be good to go. But there's going to be some of you who maybe been deadlifting for a while, maybe you've got niggles, maybe you've got injuries, maybe it hurts when you deadlift or whatever, so get it sorted first. Find yourself a qualified physio, okay, because a lot of doctors don't know about sports injuries, okay, but you know, do your homework. Don't just go for the first physio, because just like coaches, they're not all created equal and some are better than others. Okay, because you know, where possible, you really want to be able to deadlift without pain. Because I know a lot of guys and all that, they can bench or whatever and do pressing, but they just can't deadlift. Okay, so presumably if you're watching this video, you can deadlift or you want to deadlift, but some of you might, like I say, have pain, so you know, yeah, if you've got niggles and injuries, get them sorted first. Next thing to do as well is to have a structured training program. Okay, so you need to know what exercises you're going to be doing, what assistance exercises, sets, reps, what days you're going to train, the rest times. You really need to have it all mapped out. So for a lot of the time, you want to have the end in mind. You want to have a goal and work towards that. Because sometimes you get a lot of people that will go to the gym and they'll just do an exercise and just wander around and just play it by ear. You know, I always know what I'm going to do before I go to the gym. I've already got it mapped out on my phone, so I'll write down each exercise. So A might be deadlift, exercise B might be a deficit deadlift, exercise C might be a good morning, exercise D might be a pull down, etc. And I'll have it all written down. I know what sets and reps I'm going to do. I know roughly what load I'm going to use. But I will also map out a program in advance. So you want to know what your goal is going to be and then work backwards from that. That's one of the things I generally like to do, because you need to have a goal. You need to know where you're going. You know, it's like a plane, for example. It has a destination and it follows that destination and it gets there, because if it didn't know where it was going, it would never get anywhere. Okay, so think about where you want to go and then just work backwards from there. So let's say, for example, if your goal is to deadlift 200 kilos and you want to do like an 8-week program for that, then on week 8 you would deadlift 200 kilos. So your 7th week might be a deload week, and then on the 6th week maybe you might deadlift 180, on the 5th week maybe 170, and so on and so on. So you know, you might be starting around 130 or 140. That's just a basic training block, you know, but basically the gist of the idea is that you're going to go from where you are and get to where you want to be. Okay, so you know, you need to have the whole training block in mind, as well as knowing in each individual workout exactly what you're going to do. So you know, plan it and write it down. Absolutely, always write it down. Don't just do it off of your head. Know what you're going to do. Which brings me to my next point. Keep a logbook. Very, very important. And definitely usually overlooked by a lot of people. With a logbook, you can look at the days you've trained, which I put here, the blocks. So, for example, here, week 1, day 1, I always put when I start and finish and how long the workout is. You don't have to do that. Put a date when you did the workout, name of exercises, load, reps, sets, etc., so that you can look back on this. Because of course with strength training you always want to try and beat what you did previously, so I can go back and look at that and go, right, I did that there, I know what my best lifts are and everything, rather than doing it in your head, because you are just going to forget. There's just so much to remember, so many exercises, sets, reps, etc., load, you can't remember all of that. So a logbook is definitely invaluable, and I highly recommend having one. I've pretty much always had a logbook, pretty much going back to almost the beginning of my training. I can go back and look at what I did in like 2012, for instance, over 12 years ago. So I highly recommend using a logbook for your training. Another idea, and this goes on from the logbook, is basically video your lifts as well, not just to put on social media, but to check your form basically. I like to do this a lot. Although I do put my training on YouTube, there's a lot of stuff that you don't see. A lot of times I will look at my videos and do extra videos as well, and just have a look at watch it back and review it basically, and just go, right, what did I do right here, what did I do wrong here, what can I do better here. For example, with my log press, at the moment I'm doing like 2 sets of 2 and all that, and I want to do perfect reps where my feet don't move, because I find with log press, my feet go all over the place, my balance is a bit of an issue. I've got the strength to lift the log and all that, but my technique isn't always the best, so I'll take a look back. How was my clean? Did I rack it right? Did I press it right? So, and it's the same thing with my deadlift and all. I'll review them videos and have a look back. How was my deadlift? Did it look fast? Did it move fast? Was there any hitching? Did my form break down? Am I okay to continue? Or have I, gone as far as I'm going to go? So yeah, it's really a good idea to do videos and replay them and check out, what you could be doing wrong, or any form issues that you might have. Okay, so another one that I want to talk about, get a coach. Now with this, you are going to do a bit of homework. You need to really find a good coach, someone who really knows their stuff. There's so many coaches out there, especially online, and there are a lot of them that are not qualified. They don't know what they're doing. You might get some young lad that's just deadlifted 200 kilos or whatever, and all of a sudden, he thinks he's big, and he'll offer people coaching. I've actually seen, and I'm not naming any names, but I've actually seen lads do that and all that, and a lot of them don't even know what they're doing. So you need to find someone who's not just strong in of themselves, but also can relay that information, can look at your technique, someone who can tell you, what you're doing wrong, why you're doing what you're doing. Okay. For the longest time, I've had a few coaches here and there, but when I first started out, I never had a coach. And even after I'd been training about 10 years or so, I still never had a coach. In the early years, everything that I knew was things that I read in books or things that I got from websites and all that. So I was only really getting like a small portion of learning and knowing what I should have been doing. And again, that's another thing that I believe really made my deadlift progress take a lot longer than it should have been. The fact that I was basically just learning through trial and error, instead of having someone basically lead the way and go, right, do this, and also explain to me why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if you're a seasoned lifter and you already got a good grasp on programming and all that, then maybe you can do without that. I know some good lifters that they're content doing what they're doing. Some people don't like to be told what to do. They like to do their own thing, and that's fine. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't have a coach for so long, because I was, I like to do my own thing basically, and there's no right answer. I mean, if you're following a program, you're getting strong and you're making gains and all that, then maybe you don't need to get a coach. But I would say this applies more to people that are just starting out, people that are inexperienced and really don't know what they're doing and really need to learn not just their positions and technique, but programming and lots of other stuff in general. Then I highly recommend getting a coach. The less experienced you are, I think the more important that is. Okay, before you deadlift, main important takeaway now that I want to tell you about. Since you're watching this video, how to deadlift 700 pounds, then obviously deadlift is really on your radar and it's one of your big goals. So my piece of advice, prioritise the deadlift. If you want to get good at deadlifts, you have to deadlift. So all your training wants to be centred around the deadlift. Now I'm going to go more into this on the programming video, but basically I do deadlifts first. That's normally the first thing that I'll do before anything else. When you walk into the gym, you want to do deadlift first while you're fresh and you've got lots of energy. You don't want to do it later on down the line and do a bunch of exercises first, and you can't put as much effort into the deadlift because you're tired and you're not thinking about your technique. So for the specific way that I was training, I would only train twice a week. Sometimes other things might have to take a back seat. So if you really want to push your deadlift, bench press or squats or strongman or log press, certain other things might have to take a back seat or be cut out entirely if you really want to increase your deadlift and prioritise it. So take me for example, I was doing just 2 days a week, training 2 days a week and doing deadlifts twice a week. One heavy, one not so heavy, but a variation on the second day. So I'm really basically deadlifting in every session and first of all. Okay, so you know if you want a deadlift, you really need to make that a priority. Although I would want to get good at log press, I was still log pressing, but that was kind of like taking a back seat. Squats, I was doing box squats, wasn't doing bench press, but those other bits I wasn't really pushing it on, so I wasn't really pushing the log too much. Same thing with box squats, I wasn't really pushing them. I was going heavy on them, but not pushing it right to the limit. And there a lot of strongman events training I just cut out completely to allow for recovery. So if you really want to deadlift big, then you need to prioritise the deadlift, especially if you're doing like a deadlift only program, which is pretty much what I have been doing. So that's the main takeaway from this is deadlift first, prioritise it. Deadlift has to come first before anything else because that's the main lift that you want to increase. I just want to clarify as well, if you're a power lifter, you might have to do squat, bench and deadlift, because in a powerlifting competition you'll normally do deadlift last, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you solely just want to improve the deadlift only, then deadlift needs to be the priority. So this deadlift only program you really only want to do as long as you don't have a competition coming up, and that's whether you're a powerlifter or strongman. Because obviously if you've got a competition coming up, if you're a powerlifter you need to worry about the squat and bench. If you're a strongman you need to worry about the moving events as well and possibly an overhead. So I just want to clarify that this is just, when I say prioritise your deadlift, I'm talking about if you're training solely just to increase your deadlift, then all the other bits can either be eliminated completely or maybe just take a back seat to your deadlift. Another good tip as well is to find the right gym. This is very important. Not all gyms are going to be suitable for your needs. The gym that I train at, it's got good deadlifting bars, it's got strongman equipment, it's got the safety squat bar, I like to do good mornings with a safety squat bar. I don't like to do them with a regular bar because it's very hard to hold on to. You want to find a gym that allows you to use chalk. If you're a deadlifter and you're doing powerlifting, then you're not allowed to use straps. So you want to find a gym that doesn't mind you using chalk. Try not to drop your deadlifts, but sometimes you might need to. So again, you want to find a gym that's not going to kick you out, basically, or someone that's going to have a go at you if you're doing deadlifts and you might drop them. I always try and use bumper plates sometimes when I'm doing deadlifts, so that if I do drop them, it doesn't make so much of an impact. Training atmosphere is really important as well. I find I like to find a gym. I mean, there's not many hardcore gyms now, but you just want to find that gym really where there's lots of other strong guys about. Really, you need to basically find a gym that's got that good environment. So that's don't just pick any gym really. It's got to have the right equipment. It's got to have, because you get a lot of gyms that are rubbish really. They've got just like smooth bars that have got no knurling on it, and just bars that just shouldn't be used for deadlift. I went to one gym must have been about 10 years ago, and it was a cheap gym, and the bars there were really shitty, and they actually started to bend once you got to about 200 kilos. They were just cheaply made, and it was just a rubbish gym really. It was all right if you was doing general training. For someone that just wants to get in shape, tone up, or just do general training, pretty much any gym is going to do. But if you're really hardcore about it, if you want to like deadlift big, if you want to do strongman and all that, you can't just go to any gym. You need to find the right gym. So go in if you've not been there before, have a look around if you have to, and if you feel that the gym is not appropriate for you, do not join, do not use it, find another one. Okay. I like to find gyms that have got good deadlift bars, gyms that have got safety squat bars if possible. Most gyms will have lat pull down machines, so that's not really an issue, but just basically you want to find a gym where you can do them exercises and use the right specialty equipment. I like the gym that I train at because it's got wagon wheels, and also I can do elevated deadlifts instead of block deadlifts. So if I want to, I can do my wagon wheel deadlifts. It's got boards, and also I can do deficits. I can just stand on a board. It's got all the right equipment, so you basically just want to find the right gym for your needs. Okay, so in as much as what belt to use, this is probably where I'm not so much of an expert really. I just use this Adidas belt, and it's basically a two-pronged belt. It's probably what I've always worn. I've never really deviated from this. Apparently leather belts are really good, and they're proving quite popular. I've never actually worn one myself. I think a lot of you watching this will probably have your own decisions on what kind of belt you'll use, but for the purposes of this video, all I'm telling you is what I do. I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, but I've just always just stuck to that belt. That's just the only belt that I've ever worn really. Yes, there probably are better belts out there, but this is just what I do. So just so you can see on the video there, take a good look at it. That's basically the belt that I use. So, and then straps. So I use figure 8 straps. This is what I like. Some competitions don't allow you to use figure 8. You have to use normal straps. If you prefer normal straps, then you can do that. Obviously, if you're a power lifter, then you use no straps. So you want to have good chalk. I'm not going to go into what chalk to use because there's lots of good ones really. But I personally use figure 8 straps. I just like them. That's what I'm used to. That's what I like. Also, you notice there, I'm wearing deadlift socks. I do recommend deadlift socks. Reason being is they help the bar slide up the legs easier as well, and they stop the bar cutting into your shins.
I also recommend as well using talc above your legs, although I normally only do that for max attempts.
Okay, so another tip for you as well is when deadlifting, wherever possible, try and deadlift barefoot or with socks. I always use my deadlift socks. You don't want to deadlift in trainers or anything. Reason being is because when you deadlift barefoot or in socks, it just puts you that little bit closer to the floor. And when you're going for a max deadlift, you know, you want every advantage that you can get. If you have to wear shoes, then you want to wear flat shoes wherever possible. I've got flat shoes that I can wear, but whenever possible, I always try and wear my deadlift socks or just normal socks. Even if I'm in a competition, most competitions will allow you to deadlift in socks or barefoot. So yeah, just try and keep that in mind. I mean, Andy Bolton even talked about it. I read his book Deadlift Dynamite some years back, and it was one of his big tips, you know, to never deadlift in shoes or trainers, to always, wherever possible, try and deadlift barefoot or with socks on, so that you're just that much closer to the floor, because sometimes even that little bit can make all the difference.
Okay, so the first thing that I do is 5 minutes on the stationary bike. So with this, I'm not pushing it hard. I'm just going at a general pace, really, not too slow but not too fast, just to get the heart rate up a little bit. I've got my Fitbit there as well, so I can measure my heart rate. So I normally keep my heart rate at between 100 and 110, so that it's a little higher than normal, but not too hard so that I'm pushing myself, and then I'm going to wear myself out for the training that is to follow. With warm up and movement preps, you basically are just preparing to do the training. You want to stimulate, not annihilate. So you basically want to prepare your body, not wear yourself out. So yeah, just 5 minutes on the bike, really. That's all I do. And I mean, you don't have to do the bike. You can do a yoke push or a sled push, you know, just anything that basically gets the heart rate up. But I just prefer bikes, it's an easy setup. After this, I'll do curl ups. This may seem like I'm not doing anything, but if you look there, my head is slightly off the floor, and so is my leg, and I just hold that position. So basically 2 to 3 sets of 10 seconds on each side. The next thing that I do is plank. Now you can either do them like that higher up, which is a little bit easier, or you can do this and go lower, which is a proper plank. I normally do about 30 seconds of this. Again, this is just to activate the abs, especially important when you're doing deadlifts. So I just hold that. If you can't do that though, if a plank is too hard for you, you can go down on your knees like that and make it a little bit easier. If planks are too easy though, you can do side planks. These are harder than regular planks. 3 sets of 10 seconds on each side should suffice. But yeah, I find planks are quite good to activate the core muscles and the abs before training. This is usually my go-to. Like I say, all I'm showing you here is what I do, but there really is loads of different stuff that you can do. So start off now with a little bit of a catch stretch. Just do a few seconds of that before moving into the bird dog, which is this, and I just do 30 seconds. So I basically do 3 sets of 5 seconds on each side. So there you are, holding for 5 seconds. So this should take you a total of 30 seconds, and this is a good one that I like to use before deadlifts. I will say though that what I'm showing you is just stuff that I do for deadlifts and lower body. If you was warming up for pressing, you would do other movement preps, but I'm just showing you the stuff for deadlift. So this one here is the hip aeroplane, and I like to just do 5 or 6 reps on each side. You don't have to put your arm out like that, but that's just what I do. I also, when I twist around, I try and make a conscious effort to squeeze my glutes. Again, this is all stuff that's just prepping me for the deadlift session that is about to follow. So there's no, like I say, there's no pressing here. This is just for lower body stuff. And another thing that I like to do as well is plate squats. I normally do this on day 2 just before box squats. I just sit in the hole for about 5 seconds and just get that stretch. So yeah, about 5 reps of that, 5 seconds in the hole.
Okay, so after your warm-ups, now we want to talk about weight jumps. So if you're doing this deadlift only program that I've been doing, so let's start with a deadlift because that's the first exercise that I do. So as far as weight jumps go, it's going to be individual for everybody really, but I'll tell you what I do. So basically it depends on what load I'm going to be using. If I'm doing more sets and reps, then I'm probably going to do less warm-ups. So if I'm doing, let's say for example, the program for that particular day, I'm doing 200 kilos for 3 sets of 5, then I'll probably do a 25 on each side, so I'll probably do 70 kilos for probably 5 reps, 120 kilos for 3 reps, 170 kilos for 1 rep, and then I'll go straight to my working sets of 200 kilos and do my 3 sets of 5. So that's it. So I've only done 3 warm-up sets. But if I'm doing a higher weight and I'm only doing 2 sets of 2, then I might do more warm-up sets. Again, it depends on how I feel and if I feel that I need them. So let's say, for example, if I'm doing 2 sets of 2 at 260 kilos, I've got 2 choices. I can either go up a plate aside, I can go 60 kilos, 100 kilos, 140 kilos, 180 kilos, 220 kilos, and then go for the 260. Or I can use the 25s and go 70, 120, 170, 220. So I can either do 4 warm-up sets or 5 warm-up sets and then do my 2 sets of 2 at 260. Now, if I'm going for a max, or a very heavy weight that's close to my max, then a lot of my warm-ups are just going to be singles. So let's say, for example, if I'm going for 300 kilos, I might do 70 for 5, 120 for 3, 170 for 1, 220 for 1, and then 260 for 1, and then go straight for my 300. When it comes to deadlift variations, a lot of times I won't do warm-ups, so I might do 1 warm-up and then go straight into it. Because I've already done my first exercise, I'm already ready, so I don't really need any warm-ups for assistance, or at least very little. So let's say I've done this deadlift and I'm now going to do deficit deadlifts, and the plan is to do 3 sets of 5, then I'm just going to probably just do them 3 sets of 5. So let's say I deadlift 300 kilos and now I'm going to do deficit, and the plan is just to do 3 sets of 5, and so I might drop down and do, and this is just an example by the way, I might drop down and do 200 for 5, 220 for 5 and 240 for 5. So I won't just drop it down to 70 kilos and build back up again. I'll just do what I need to do basically. And then if I'm doing good mornings after that, I might do 70 kilos for 3 reps just for a warm-up. So that's 1 warm-up, and then I'll do 110, 150 and 190 or whatever the case may be. So I might just do 1 warm-up and then my 3 working sets, or I might just skip the warm-up and just do the 3 working sets. But generally for assistance, I don't normally do a warm-up set, and if I do, it's just going to be the 1. When I do the smaller assistance exercises like pull-downs, I just, for the most part, I will just do the working sets basically. So that's weight jumps. Okay, so I'm not going to really touch on diet too much. because that's going to be a very individual thing. So just a little few things that you should know and probably do know. But so for calories, you basically just want to eat enough calories to fuel your workouts. I personally average about, at the moment, about 4,002 to 4,400 calories a day. That's probably going to be more than most people, but I'm 320 pounds plus. You know, I'm a large guy. I'm 6 feet tall as well, so I probably need more calories. But for you, I recommend getting MyFitnessPal, really, and just measuring your food, just typing it all in. It's a bit tedious to do it at first and all that, but it does get easier if you can get into the habit of logging your food and how many calories. You've then got data to work with. So let's say, just hypothetically, let's say you're 21 years old, you're 5'10", you weigh 75 kilos, and your lifts are struggling, and you want to gain a little bit of weight. And let's say you log all your food and you find that you're only consuming 1,800 calories. So you basically want to trial and error this. So increase to like 2,000 calories. See if you put on any weight. See if you get stronger. If you don't, maybe increase the next week 2,100. But build it up very slowly. The mistake I made when I first started is I ate lots and lots of food and I put a lot of weight on. The trick to it is you want to eat enough that you get stronger, but you don't want to eat so much that you just end up getting fat, because that's what I did basically. There was a time once, a few years back, where I was eating close to 6,000 calories a day, and yes, I did get stronger. It did help, but I was just putting on so much weight and lots of visits to the toilet as well. I mean, forget about like what you see with Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw and Hathor having like 10,000 plus calories a day. Do you really need to do that? Not really. Us general Joes basically don't need to go anywhere near that. Like I say, the most that I ever did was about 5.5, getting on for 6,000 calories a day, and even for me that was way too much really. Yes, I was getting strong, but I was also putting on way too much weight in the process. So it's basically just a balancing act really. You've got to basically, I would just my advice is just log your food, know how much you're consuming, just get plenty of carbs and protein and all that. Remember, and this is what I said before about prioritise your deadlift. You know, forget about weight loss, forget about getting lean and all that. I mean, obviously, we don't want to be super fat or anything, but if lifting as much weight as possible is your goal, then, and you don't mind putting on a little bit of weight, then you know just monitor your calories and increase accordingly if you have to. Like I say, diet and calorie intake is going to be a very individual thing. If I dropped to 4,000 calories, I would lose weight. Would I lose strength in the process? Probably a little bit, really. I mean, you do need to eat for power and strength, especially if you're natural, and I've found that. If I was to let's say I was to drop to 2,000 calories, I would lose strength instantly, just like that. All my lifts would go down. So yeah, you do need to have your fair share of food, but the trick is to, like I say, eat enough to get stronger and not put any weight on, or put a little bit of weight on. But at the same time, don't eat too little either. So like I say, that's just going to be an individual thing. Another thing, and this is what I do as well, is the day before a training session, I'll try and get all my food in before that. I find that I get better results if I eat lots of food the day before a training session, especially if it's a heavy session. And then on the day of training, when I wake up in the morning, I'll have a small meal, probably 500-600 calories. Might seem like a lot for some people, but that's for me. I'll just have some potatoes, a meal that's got some carbs in it, just to give you a little bit of energy. And then I'll head down to the gym. And while I'm training, and you've probably noticed this in my videos, I'll have a few bananas and a bottle of Lucozade just for the carbs, just to replenish me during the workouts. Eddie Hall used to have a banana when he was training, and cranberry juice, but I don't like cranberry juice, so I have
Lucozade instead, and yeah, I find that fine. I do drink bottles of water when I go to the gym as well, so I'll eat the bananas, I'll drink the Lucozade. Once the Lucozade is gone, then I'll switch over to the water and drink water for the remainder. But yeah, I find the Lucozade and the bananas helps give me that energy during my big deadlifts and the deadlift variations, and then by the time I've moved on to my assistance work, I'm then drinking water after that. I will normally have less calories after the workout. You don't Before a workout, you don't want to eat so much that you're going to bloat yourself. I mean, some people will just wake up in the morning and go straight to the gym and train on an empty stomach, but I find I do better if I've had a small meal before then. I mean, some people can train at 5, 6 in the morning, that's fine. I normally don't train until about 12 noon, maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I normally do late shifts at work, so I will normally get up about 9 or 10ish, have a small meal. So by the time I've got to the gym, it's like a couple of hours since I've had that meal. So then I'll have the Lucozade and the bananas just to keep me going through the training session. And then when I get home, I'll have another meal. Other than vitamin C, I do not use supplements. Maybe I should, but I don't really use them. Some supplements are quite expensive. I don't use pre-workout either. Again, like I say, I'm only telling you what I do. You know, there's no right or wrong. If you use a pre-supplement, if you use like a pre-workout that works for you, if you use supplements that work for you, if what you're doing is working and all that, and you're comfortable with it and you like doing what you're doing, that's absolutely fine. Have at it. You know, I mean, it's not wrong. It's, you know, what works for you basically. You know, I'm just touching on diet a little bit as to what I do. I'll say I have about 4,002 to 4,004 calories. Some of you might not even need anywhere near that. Some of you might need 5,000 or more if you're even bigger, or you know, maybe. I mean, I'm a driver, so I'm sitting down at work most of the time. So, but for those of you that do physical labour jobs, you probably need more than that. So again, all I can basically say is just monitor what you're eating and adjust accordingly. Water intake, I don't do it, but I try to get at least 3 litres every day, but most of the time it's more like 2 1/4. But I do try and make a conscious effort to drink 3 litres of water a day. So yeah, like I say, food is very important, especially if you're natural. If you're using PEDs, you can probably eat a bit less, get leaner, and still make good strength gains. But yeah, if you're natural, you do need to eat your fair share of food and get plenty of calories in, good carbs and good protein. Okay, so now, last but not least, we're going to talk about recovery. So, first things first, we're going to talk about the 3 pillars of recovery, which is basically sleep, nutrition and stress. So we're going to start with sleep first. I'm a big believer in sleep. I try and get at least 8 hours sleep a night, and I usually do. My average sleep time is usually 7.5 to 8 hours. I've got a Fitbit here, and this actually measures my sleep. So last night, I don't know if you can see that, I got 7 hours and 35 minutes sleep. So I measure everything. I measure food as well as training. I measure how much water I drink every day, and I measure sleep as well as resting heart rate as well and all that. So yeah, I'm a big believer in sleep. At the end of the day, you can't train heavy if you're tired, so sleep is a must. I've got up there blackout dark curtains. I actually sleep with an eye mask on, and I put earplugs in. Most of you won't need to do that, but I'm a fussy sleeper. Sometimes the smallest light will disturb me. Wherever possible, you want the room to be as cool as possible. If it's too hot, that can affect my sleep. I'm quite a big person, so I probably feel the heat more than most people. I actually sleep better when it's cool. I sleep better in the winter. When it's the summer and it's really hot and stuffy, I do struggle to sleep. So, you know, those are my top tips. Just try and sleep in a cool, dark room, basically. No devices, keep it off. I've talked about this in a previous video, but basically I try and follow the 3-2-1 rule. So no food 3 hours before you go to sleep, no liquids 2 hours before you go to sleep, and no screens 1 hour before you go to sleep. You know, so just put the phone away. I know it's hard for some people. You know, it's easy to lay in bed scrolling on social media. I've done it myself, and it can be like a hard habit to get into, but you know, something that you really need to do. All these little things that I've been telling you, right? You've got to make a habit of, you know, putting these all together and all that. It's tough, but it's all these little things can make a difference, really. So the other things with recovery, so nutrition, basically I've just spoke about that in diet, really. So just get a quick recap on it. Just make sure basically you're getting enough calories in, the right amount of calories, enough carbs to fuel your sessions. Basically you want your fats and your proteins, and of course you want to be drinking enough liquids, water during the day. And then stress, obviously again this is a very individual thing. I try and keep stress out of my life as much as possible. Not always easy, especially in the job that I do, but yeah, I just try and just chill and not think of things. Some people suffer from anxiety and all sorts of things, but you know, really just, I know it's hard, easier said than done, but just try and keep stress to a minimum or out completely if you can. So that's that main thing. Now talking about ice baths and all that, and ice and hot and cold showers for recovery, I don't really do them. I think so long as you sleep well and eat right and all that, you know, you're going to pretty much be okay. I mean, a lot of the top strong men swear by ice baths and hot and cold showers and all that, and if you do it and you feel it works for you, then have at it. Again, it's not wrong, you know, I'm just saying what I do. So I don't really do it. I did try hot and cold showers and they was all right. I didn't really feel any difference from them. I would like to try a hyperbaric chamber. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a chamber where you get extra oxygen. They're very expensive. I think you have to go and book them. I've never done it. Eddie Hall actually built his own hyperbaric chamber. But it's something I would like to try at some point in the future. But again, that's not going to be an option for the majority of people. They're very expensive. I mean, just off a guess, maybe an hour in one of them could cost £100. I don't know. That's something you'd have to look into. It's something I'm going to look into. Once I've tried it, I might even do a video on it actually and let you know how that went for me. I mean, there's massages that you can do as well, which help apparently aid recovery. But again, that's the kind of thing, you know, can you afford that? You know, the average Joe isn't going to be able to. Eddie Hall was really big on massages, but he had the money to do it. He spent a lot of money. I think in one of his videos, he said he was spending like £200 a week on physio and massages and all that. But again, for guys like you and myself, you know, for the average person, it's not going to be practical. But I think so long as you sleep well and eat well and just keep your stress to a minimum, you're not going to go far wrong. The other recovery tip that I want to give you as well is basically just to move around. So what do I mean by that? So basically, when I first started training, I used to think that if I just sit around and do nothing, that I'd actually recover quicker, but because rest is rest, right? No, but I actually found after conversations with a few people that if I go for walks on my non-lifting days or bike rides, that actually helps improve the blood flow and you actually recover quicker doing that. So on my non-lifting days, I try and get my steps in. Again, I've got my Fitbit so it measures my steps, or I'll go out on my bike. I'm not really a fan of walking, so I'll do bike rides. I mean, you've probably seen some of my bike ride videos on my YouTube. So yeah, so long as I'm not working, and even if I'm working, if I'm doing a late shift, I'll try and get a bike ride in before I do my shift. So on my non-lifting days, I'm always trying to do some movement of some description, just to move around, just to get a little bit of blood flow, and yeah, just generally feel better. So yeah, so that's the recovery bits. Okay, so the main thing
takeaway from this basically is that you know, it's not just what you do inside the gym with your training, but what you do outside of the gym as well, because you can have the best training program, you can train hard, you know, but if you're not recovering from your workouts, you know, if your diet isn't right and, you know, you're not sleeping or whatever, then, you know, obviously it's going to be harder for you to make gains. The other thing I want to say as well, someone asked, you know, can I still do cardio and all that? Is cardio going to affect your training? So the answer is yes and no. So, you know, where I was talking about walking and cycling basically just to aid blood flow and help you recover, when I do that, I mean, obviously walking is low impact, so it's not really going to affect your training, and if it does, then it's probably because you're really out of shape. Because I found if I did like lots of cardio and all that, it would affect my strength gains. But over the years, my work capacity has got better and I've got in better shape and all that, where I recover better. But when I go for my bike rides and all that, I'm just going low intensity. I'm just going for a nice, easy, leisurely ride. I'm not really pushing myself. And then even when I do, it's only in short bursts. I mean, if you're cycling like 20 miles 5 times a week at a really high intensity, then yeah, it's going to eat into your recovery and it is going to affect your strength training workouts. But if you're doing like basically what I am, if you're doing like 30 minutes 3 or 4 times a week at a low intensity, then no, it's not going to affect your workouts at all. So but basically you want to use the walking and the cycling just as a recovery tool basically. But if you're the kind of person that likes to do cardio, it's okay to do it in moderation, but just be wary that you don't want your cardio to be excessive. You don't want the intensity to be too much. So if you're really pushing yourself to the point where you're out of breath and you're really struggling and you're doing miles upon miles upon miles and you're doing that several times a week, then yeah, like I say, it's probably going to eat into your strength training. But on the whole, cardio, so long as it's done easily and in moderation, then no, it's not going to interfere with your strength workouts. Okay, so this is pretty much the end of episode 2. So thank you guys for watching. If you like the content, please give it a like. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments below. So episode 3 will be coming soon and we'll be talking about deadlift technique. So watch this space for that video. I'll be uploading it real soon.